You know, sometimes our last reveal at the Game Awards is a teaser for something years and years away. But not tonight. Our final world premiere comes from 61 members of the team that built Apex Legends and Titanfall. 4 years ago, the principals founded a new independent studio. The power of independent, self-published studios to push this medium forward is a growing and I think positive theme in our industry. I've played it, and after you see this trailer, I think you're going to want to as well. Welcome to Highguard.
You can have everything going for you. You can be a brand new studio working in secret on a project you truly believe in. A studio built on talent that helped shape legendary titles like Apex Legends and Titanfall. You can command respect and reverence. Then Geoff Keighley himself, so impressed with your game, offers you the most coveted slot of the entire show, the final reveal at the Game Awards. Maximum exposure, maximum hype, the moment every developer dreams of. And then it happens. Catastrophe. The internet turns on you instantly. The reveal is mocked, the game is questioned, and what should have been a breakout moment becomes a public disaster. This wasn't just a bad reveal, it was the beginning of Highguard's collapse, and it serves as a very harsh lesson for developers all over the world. We've seen plenty of high-profile multiplayer failures in recent years. Concord is one of the clearest examples. A project backed heavily by Sony, with completely unreasonable expectations that collapsed almost immediately after launch. But Highguard isn't that kind of failure. It isn't a soulless, committee-designed live service game chasing trends. It isn't fundamentally broken. So who is actually responsible for Highguard's failure? Some point to Geoff Keighley. In hindsight, placing a brand new IP from a brand new studio in the coveted final slot at the Game Awards may have set expectations that the game simply couldn't ever meet. The stage carries weight, it signals importance, it implies scale. Others argue that the backlash was actually on us, the audience, that we expected a major established franchise to close the show, and we unfairly judged Highguard before it even had a chance to prove itself. And then there's the studio itself. Wildlight Entertainment chose to enter one of the most saturated genres in modern gaming. The live service hero shooter space isn't just competitive, it's brutally unforgiving. If a game doesn't immediately carve out a clear identity, it disappears. Before Highguard even appeared on screen, it was already fighting an uphill battle. Because the hero shooter and live service multiplayer space isn't just competitive, it's exhausted. For nearly a decade now, players have lived inside games like Overwatch, Apex Legends and Valorant. Even Overwatch, the game that defined the genre, struggled until very recently with its whole rebrand and restructuring, and that has the might of Blizzard behind it. Every new attempt from another developer comes with the same promise. This one's different, they exclaim, but most aren't. Not different enough. The market has become flooded with polished, well-funded multiplayer shooters that all just blur together. Projects have launched with hype and then have disappeared in months. This is the modern reality. Quality alone no longer matters. If your multiplayer game doesn't instantly communicate a clear, unique identity, players won't even try it. And when Highguard was revealed, it didn't look bad, it looked familiar. Stylized characters, ability-driven combat, team-based objectives, competent, polished, but indistinguishable. And in 2026, indistinguishable is basically a death sentence. Why do you think Marathon's art style is so divergent from anything we've seen in the multiplayer space? Highguard didn't quietly appear in a showcase montage. It closed the show. That final slot isn't a neutral one. It's reserved for industry-shaking announcements, massive franchises, moments meant to redefine the conversation. Why Geoff Keighley decided that Highguard should occupy this space is bewildering to many, including myself. You will find it very hard to convincingly argue against the point that Geoff completely misread the impact and reception Highguard would have. Even still, the decision doesn't make any sense because Highguard occupied a space where the audience isn't thinking, let's see what this new studio is making. Instead, they were thinking, this better be huge. The presentation reinforced it. The dramatic build-up, the cinematic tone, the orchestration, the references to Titanfall and Apex Legends, everything screamed importance. But what followed looked like just another hero shooter. Not revolutionary, not genre-breaking, just another entry in an already overcrowded space. The massive gap between expectation and reality created instant resentment. However, I think blame has been disproportionately applied to Jeff Keighley when it comes to Highguard's failures, because without the Game Awards, Highguard would likely never reach 100,000 players at launch like it did. Without that exposure, it wouldn't spike to 1.54 million players in January. The show didn't sabotage the game, it amplified it. And sure, that amplification has some negatives as I mentioned, but it also gave Highguard something most new multiplayer IPs never get: a real chance. Irrespective of player bias and irrespective of online rhetoric, a sufficient number of players tried the game. And in live service, that's everything. If the core experience had been strong enough, if it had truly differentiated itself, then those numbers would have stabilized. But they never did. Instead, they collapsed, and now on Steam, player counts hover around 500 players. This is not a reveal problem, this is a retention problem, and retention is where live service games live or die. There's another game right now riding almost entirely on reputation: Marathon. From the moment it was announced, excitement wasn't driven by what players saw, it was driven by who was making it, because Marathon comes from Bungie, the studio that made Halo Combat Evolved and the studio behind Destiny. Two franchises that didn't just succeed, they defined generations of console shooters. And because of that history, Marathon has been given goodwill. To a lesser extent, Wildlight had the same benefit of the doubt working in its favor. The moment people heard Titanfall and Apex developers, expectations skyrocketed. But my expectations weren't just for a solid multiplayer experience. I wanted innovation, something genre shifting. Why else would you even enter in this competitive arena and dedicate several years of your life to work on a title like this? It all hints at how supremely naive Wildlight were in approaching this. Pedigree is a double-edged sword. It doesn't just raise interest, it raises the bar. It raises expectations. When a new studio launches its first game, players forgive rough edges. When industry veterans launch a game, players expect evolution. They expect progress. They expect something bold. Highguard didn't feel bold, it felt safe. And safe from legendary developers feels like disappointment. Highguard shows exactly what happens when reputation sets expectations your game can't meet. It wasn't judged like a new studio's first attempt at all. Why should it? It was judged like the next evolution of Titanfall level innovation, and when it didn't deliver that feeling, the fall was instantaneous. And herein lies the harsh lesson for many onlooking veteran developers. Highguard didn't fail because it was broken. It failed because the market has changed. In today's industry, talent isn't enough, polish isn't enough, pedigree isn't enough, especially in live service. So if your game doesn't immediately answer, why should I stop playing what I already love? Players won't even click download. Highguard has become another casualty of a genre that's reached saturation. What often gets lost in these conversations though, is the reality behind those numbers. When a live service game collapses, it doesn't just lose players, it costs people their jobs, and Highguard's decline has already triggered mass layoffs. Talented developers, artists, designers and engineers suddenly out of work because of a project that couldn't find its footing in an unforgiving market. And yet, Highguard still has a skeleton crew desperately working on the title. A small group of developers still showing up every day, still patching, still balancing, still trying to steer a sinking ship back towards the surface. That deserves respect, because whatever went wrong with Highguard's positioning, identity, or timing, one thing is clear: there is real passion behind this game. No one keeps fighting for a project like this unless they genuinely believe in it, but unfortunately, passion alone can't save a live service title. And this is the hardest truth developers now have to face. The modern market is ruthless. You don't get years to slowly grow anymore. You don't get unlimited chances to iterate in public. Sometimes the smartest and most painful decision is to step back and ask, is the game truly offering something players can't get elsewhere? Is the core loop strong enough to compete with the giants? Is the identity clear enough to cut through saturation? And is the content roadmap aggressive enough to keep rekindling interest? Because if the honest answer is no to any of these questions, then throwing more updates at the problem doesn't fix it. It only delays the inevitable. This is Gaz from Insider Gaming. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.